Many thanks for staying tuned. It's still the conversation here on Lagos Television. Of course, Rivers State has always been described as a volatile state, a state that has often witnessed power struggles and political, well, not instability, but political struggle, if I can put it that way. Of course, we also witnessed a lot during Nyesom Wike and Rotimi Amechi, now to Nyesom Wike and of course in Fubara. And of course, many have said what is most important in Rivers State is good governance and relative peace. But how do we ensure that there is relative peace in all that is going on in that state at the moment, especially with the invocation of a state of emergency by Mr. President on Rivers State? So today on the program, we'll be looking at restoration of peace in Rivers and the impact of the sole administrator, of course, in that state. And we do have a lawyer and a political observer on the program today, whom together we'll be sharing thoughts on how to go about this particular situation. Join us this morning as a welcome to Nyesom. Thank you for being here on the program.
Thank you for having
me. Well, let's take it this way. We do know, like I said, that Rivers, many have said, is a very volatile state, a state that, has its own share of struggles when it comes to politics. Of course, the latest is that we've seen for almost 2 years now between Nyesom Wike, the federal minister, and Governor Sim Fubara, which of course now has culminated in a state of emergency. For those who've been watching what's been happening in that state for all this while, and now that there is a state of emergency on ground, peace remains paramount because everybody wants to stay in a place where there's relative peace. But how do we go about ensuring that that peace is one thing that we can give to the people of Rivers State at this particular crucial moment?
Again, thank you for having me. The first thing you say to yourself is the political actors themselves, are they ready to obey the rules? Guiding what they do, governance and all of that. There's really nothing strange. You can transpose us back to 2004 in Plateau State, and you have the same exact thing repeating itself. Nothing new, nothing new. And it boils down to one thing. You have rules governing you as a governor. You have rules governing you as a federal capital territory minister. But as long as we're not ready to play within the rules, we're going to come to a place where lawlessness, we prevail, we be the order of the day, to use your words. And so nothing is new, nothing will change, and these things will repeat themselves in the future as long as we can't play by the rules.
Okay, Jibola, go ahead. I was going to ask a follow-up question, though. So now my follow-up question is, we can as well just close the studio now and then go home.
No, seriously.
If you are of the opinion that nothing will change at the end of the day, but if really there has to be peace in that state, there surely must be something. So for you, is it that all the actors must go back to the drawing board and begin to play by the rules, begin to obey submissions of the court, begin to look at those statutes, that have been put on ground? Because if we think that nothing will happen because nothing is being done, then it means that definitely nothing is going to happen. So if something is going to happen, if there's going to be peace, if something is going to shift grounds, what do they need to do really?
Obey the rule of law.
Obey the rule of law.
It's as simple as that. Because see, go back to 1962, the Majeko Dumi AG thing. Many years of military rule, came back to democracy, go back to 2004 under Obasanjo, go back to the years under Jonathan, now come back to where we are right now. You see strong men fighting, and that has now made the issue of the state, instead of strong men fighting for tough. What has changed? What will change? If we had it in 1962 and we're discussing the same thing in 2025, as a people, have we learned anything?
Okay.
Have we? Now, it's so very easy to blame people, but let's go back to the start. Now, are we allowed to mention names and circumstances here? Well, no, it won't be libelous, I assure you.
You're a lawyer.
I can assure you of that.
Lawyer, so.
Prior to the election of Sim Fubara as the governor, he was declared wanted by the FCC. It was hiding in the government house. It was imposed on the people. Because you're talking of one person deciding who wins in a state. He became the governor. He wanted to be his own man. And we got to a point where 27 men could not, I mean, the House of Assembly was bombed.
Yes.
It was burnt down.
And then it was pulled down.
Budgets were being presented to 4 men. Nobody was saying anything. What do you think was going to happen? We were going to get to this point.
Right.
We were just going to get to this point. Actions have consequences. But just imagine that even in voting for a Fubara, that the people were allowed to vote for him, so to speak, that he won the election, then his power will flow from the people. Not one man saying, you will become the governor.
Okay.
Now, if one man decided that you became the governor, then you are beholden to that man. It will give you conditions and you must obey those conditions. Now, when you fail to obey those conditions, there will be other consequences.
Right.
How did you deal with that?
That's fine. At least I'm glad that at least we were able to get you to, again, give context to some of these things. Because, again, if we say it and then we fail to give context to the discussion, then it might as well. Jibala, you can go ahead. At least
okay, talking about consequences, Tunde, the consequences of the actions of Wike and, of course, the suspended governor, as well as the lawmakers, was what prompted Mr. President to declare that state of emergency. Looking at it constitutionally now, do you think that action of Mr. President is right or wrong, being a lawyer? Because people have criticized Mr. President, and of course, while he was making that speech on that Tuesday, he cited Section 305 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, which actually gave him the power to take that decision. Was he right or wrong, or what he did was an action of necessity?
Okay, so let's backtrack a bit. If you look at your Section 305, it talks about the discretion of the president to do a proclamation of a state of emergency, and, you know, the instances were listed where he could. Of course, being a discretion, I'm being convinced that he was right. I have no problem with the proclamation itself. I do not have a problem. I think that is on what you call a firm ground in declaring that state of emergency, the proclamation itself. If you go to court, you'll probably lose because the court will not fetter an executive discretion. So we're beyond that now. The next step is, having done that, there is no provision in the Constitution that talks about what happens next.
Okay.
You know, part of what we do is that we just copy constitutions from all over the world without looking at our dynamics.
Peculiarities.
You know, so there is that lacuna. Having declared a state of emergency, and I believe me, the proclamation, in my own opinion, was on if you go to court, you will lose. The court will not intervene, and they won't. The next thing is, what do you do next?
Okay.
Now you go to what the National Assembly did, which they had to do, which was, okay, we support the president. And the argument is, oh, should there have been a voice vote? Should there have been... Again, they can make their own rules. You can argue about that. You know, again, if you go to court, you won't win. Because the court will not interfere when it comes to parliamentary rules and decisions. They really don't want to get into that. I'm not saying that if it conflicts with the Constitution that they won't step in. But 9 out of 10 times, they just say, you know what, we won't deal with that. The next one now, which is the most important one, is that there's a sole administrator. Where's that power coming from? The president will say, oh, doctrine of necessity. You remember that? Yeah, I think doctrine of necessity. But doctrine of necessity cannot override the Constitution. There is a lacuna. The lacuna is that nobody gives you the power to appoint a sole administrator. Nobody gives you the power to suspend, you know, to take over a space and put an unelected person there. There's no such provision. So you can stretch it. You want to go back to the Emergency Act of 1961? It was made under the 1960 Independence Constitution. It's not applicable. So we're left with the fact that you don't have the right to do that. But if you don't have the right to do that, how do you balance the two? You've declared state of emergency. What do you want the governor to do to continue to act when you've suspended him? It becomes a bit tough.
So, I mean, right.
For me.
For you, right?
For me, this is me saying it, and I should defend the law at all times. Yeah. If there is a lacuna in your law, then you have the National Assembly rectify.
Right. So now that there is a lacuna, which of course you've cleared here, yes, the law was clear or is clear on whether or not a state of emergency could have been declared. What the law was silent about was what happens
thereafter.
Next.
Yes.
Could we also say that the president had the powers to use his discretion to also in order not to create a vacuum, to have done what he did, because again, he had said, why invoke a state of emergency if the governor can still be there? And so if the governor is suspended and the lawmakers are also suspended, the judiciary will continue to function according to their mandate, but in the place of the executive, then there is somebody, of course, in the person of a sole administrator. So can the president, does he have the powers to have taken that move or to have made that decision that he took in order not to have created a space?
Don't forget that under the man from where? From Bayelsa? President Jonathan Goodluck.
Yes.
There were instances where a state of emergency a proclamation of state of emergency was imposed, but he allowed the governors to continue to
but
function.
We understand, of course, because again,
because it's just politics.
Issues.
See, go back to 2004. What were the reasons why Dariye was suspended? The president, Mr. Olusegun Obasanjo, said, "Oh, he didn't respect constituted authority. He traveled out of the country without informing me." You know, and what I'm saying basically is that unless you come to a point where you say, there is a provision for this, anybody can use it for any purpose. And that is my fear. You know, the president actually has the right to impose a state of emergency, proclamation of state on the entire country. It does, under the law. The point is, my worry is this can easily be abused until we get to a point where we say, you know what, yes, you can declare a state of emergency, but can you appoint a sole administrator? As tough as it is, that question must be answered. That question must be answered. If not, if a vindictive dictator acts in that regard, you know what happens? The old 36 governors can be gone. Because we will say, oh, it is a doctrine of necessity. No, the law is the law.
Right. Sorry, Jibola, but then, in your own opinion, because again, you've talked about how important is it for the rule of law to always take precedence here. Is this also able to ensure that, to set the governors on their toes?
You can't set them on their toes.
No,
it's not the beauty. Sorry.
Let me land on the question.
Yes.
Is it also possible that this particular state of emergency and the suspension of the River State governor is also able to put the governors in check to ensure that there is no crisis in their state that goes out of hand that they cannot handle, that will bring their state to a position where a state of emergency can be invoked?
Okay, like we can talk freely on this channel. You recall that there was this problem at Magodo, right? And the governor of Lagos State had to go there.
Right.
And
there was a uniformed
man looking at the governor and saying, you can't control me. So when you talk about ensuring peace in your state, can the governors really do?
But is that not the responsibility of the governor?
Without being controlled?
Chief security officer.
As a chief security officer.
Are they the chief security officers?
They should be.
So they say there's crisis. How do they deploy the police? If the commissioner of police is answerable to Abuja, and they're playing political game, and he says, oh, the commissioner of police move in this direction, and he looks at him and says, you don't control me.
You have that only in very, very minute
No, but it's a reality.
It is a reality, agreed.
See, what has happened is that you have a bunch of people, and it's not a recent thing, you just have a bunch of people playing strongman games, and nothing matters. The people don't matter. Anytime I remember what happened in Magodo, I just say, it's CSP to the governor of the state, looking at him and he says to him, you can't control me, sir, with due respect. And truly, under the law, that guy is responsible to his commissioner of police, to his IGP, and to the president. Right. So go back. I like using Dariye example. So you go back to Dariye. Oh, there was instability, violence, bloodshed in a few local government that, as the CSO, he couldn't control. How was he supposed to control it? Could he deploy the police? Could he deploy the army? The answer is no. What is this chief security officer thing?
At that point in time, which was what Mr. President also said, was that he had expected that Governor Sim would have escalated that to the federal government, to Mr. President. I can't control this. I need your help. What about that situation?
So what happened in River State? 2 pipelines were bombed, right? So what was the president supposed to do? Secure those pipelines, right? There are people earning billions, the top police of this world, for securing the pipelines. The whole thing is just politics. And the only way you can control politics? Okay, let's start with the law. Speaking as Tunde, that's me now speaking. I would say the president had to do what he did. But that's me speaking. But I'm speaking not as a lawyer.
Okay.
That it didn't matter what happened in Rivers State, that the people deserved to have their peace, and they have their peace right now in Rivers. But that's the peace of the graveyard. It's just for now. Long term, if you can declare a state of emergency, what happens after declaring? Can you appoint a sole administrator? Because what you have done really is that you have taken control of a portion of the country and you've appointed a man who was elected by the people.
So you have taken power away from the
You've
people.
taken power.
But it's a specified period of time.
It's irrelevant. You can't even do it for a day if the law does not. Don't forget that your constitution is what you call your ground. That's your supreme law. Anything that, in fact, if you go back to that section 305, the starting is subject to other provisions. So it's not, this 305 doesn't stand alone. If it conflicts with sections of the Constitution, then it has to go.
Okay.
Okay.
Alright.
Yeah. Today, Abimbola cited, or she's made a statement earlier that we cannot afford to have a vacuum in government. And now, Mr. President already appointed a sole administrator to run the affairs of the state for the initial 6-month period, according to Mr. President. So, in his quest for peace, in his quest for a semblance of good governance in Rivers State, what kind of engagement do you think he should be having now? And who are the major actors that he should target in restoring peace to Rivers State?
Okay, so I'm just thinking, in restoring peace, without removing the governor, could the president have deployed troops? Is that the question? Without removing the governor, could he have deployed troops to secure the pipelines, to secure the state, while the governor continued to function? It's a question. But we're where we are. Of course, you know...
Even if the governor is still in office, the tension will still be there.
No, I'm going somewhere. See, are we afraid of things coming to a head? Those 27 lawmakers were going to impeach the governor. And they would have impeached the governor. You know what? The heavens will not fall.
True.
Why are we afraid of these things? See, Rivers State was going to come to this point. One or two things will have to happen for there to be peace in Rivers State. Either Fubara dies, not die literally, politically, or Wike dies politically, or...
No, there was a collision.
Somebody has to shift ground. Because it's not politics of Rivers, it's politics of, in quote, two strong men. That's what it's up.
So what should the sole administrator be doing now?
He will do what he has been given the money. He has been given the allocation. He will spend it. He will do what governors do. What do they do? They pay salary. They eat the money. They do whatever they do. He will do what other governors do. There's nothing.
Well, we still need to engage with the people.
He will engage. The people will engage with him. It will be the governor for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
You know, maybe it will be extended. It doesn't matter. We just do what governors do in Nigeria. Right. Sleep in London, wake up in Lagos. We do what they do.
But as a retired armed forces, he retired as a naval
He's a vice admiral. Yes.
Do you think that will bring any? Will that bring any succor to the current bombing of installations that we're beginning to witness? And of course, we know that a couple of militants had also spoken tough that removing the governor was going to spell trouble for Rivers State. But the sole administrator, being a retired naval man, is that able to quell the tension, or is that able to put some form of fear in the minds of the actors, the non-state actors? Is not able to.
No. What I'm saying basically is this. I mean, we've been through this part before. You know, it took people like Asari Dokubo, flying to Abuja in private jets to have a semblance of peace. It took Yar'Adua to sit down with the leaders of these militant groups to say, no. You see, you can't pacify people with force. You cannot. You can't pacify any. When people commit to an action, what are you going to do? How many bullets are you going to? How many people are you going to kill? Right. What I'm saying basically is that the whole thing going on in Rivers State, whether from the militant side or from the Wike camp or from the Fubara camp, it's all politics. And there must be a lot of give and take. They must be able to sit and say, see, Rivers State is the state that we've got. Let us make it work. There must be a lot of give and take. I think, I may be wrong. My projection is this. Let's talk about this in 6 months. Fubara will cave in. It will go back, but it will be a calmer man. It won't be impeached. It won't be impeached. You will see, it's just a projection.
Okay.
It doesn't have the leverage. It doesn't really matter how mighty, how strong you are. You're not going to fight the federal government. And obviously, the federal government has taken a side. And it's obvious. I'm sorry, I may be wrong. But the federal government seems to lean more You know, on Fubara just saying, accepting some, I don't want to use strong words, semblance of peace to say, guy, calm down. We know how you got here. Calm down. Talk to your boss. Calm down. And I think that's where it's going to end at the end of the day.
Right.
But having said that, only one thing is sure. One, rule of law. Let it prevail. If you have a problem with your constitution, amend it. You know, fill the lacuna. It's a gap. Fill the gap. Number two, we shouldn't be afraid of consequences. We shouldn't be.
Okay.
What will happen? So if you send Fubara back today, if you revoke by an instrument, transmit an instrument to the National Assembly, if you revoke the suspension today and it goes back, what do you think will happen? The heavens won't fall.
The heavens won't fall. I admitted,
but don't keep breaching your law as stopgap measures. Don't. It doesn't work because it can be used for the wrong purposes.
The wrong reason.
Yeah.
Okay, today, what we have seen playing out in Rivers State is just a clear misunderstanding between a godfather and his son.
I agree with you 100%. 100%. There's really nothing to it. And that is now being played up as if it's nothing. It's just the man and his godson having a dispute.
And the struggle for power.
That's all.
This time, I mean, this 6 months that they have, is it enough to close ranks and find a meaningful solution to what we have on ground?
I think somebody should challenge the 6 months.
Well, the National Assembly said that it's not cast in stone.
No, I think somebody should go to court and say.
Well, the PDP governors are saying they will go to court.
No, but somebody, an individual, yourself, myself, and all of that, can go to court and say, can the president appoint his sole admin? It's very important.
Okay, can you champion that cause?
I can. A lot of us can.
Are you ready to champion that cause?
It's just protecting your constitution.
I mean,
No, I agree. You understand what I'm saying? We need to get to the point where your constitution is not trampled upon. It's a dangerous way to go. We've gone on that track for too long. Obasanjo did it.
Good luck to Jonathan.
Now we're here. So everybody's now a hero. Everybody's now. I mean, when I see the people posturing as defenders of democracy, I'm like, everybody's now using this opportunity to reinvent themselves. Coming out to say, yes, it's not good. Yes, we know it's not good. But what are you going to do? You are going to leave rivers to burn. The answer is no. What was the president supposed to do? It would talk about doctrine of necessity.
Okay, so for you today, so the president, I mean, in that invocation of a state of emergency, the president has done probably the most appropriate thing.
No.
So for you, what you're not pleased about is the imposition of a sole administrator.
See, distinguish between myself as Tunde Eson and the lawyer.
Okay,
it's very important. Where we are is where we are.
But the Constitution
I can't support. It's not even there.
Okay, so is this one of the reasons why you think there should be an amendment of the Constitution?
There has to be.
And then if that amendment...
That lacuna must be filled.
So now, speaking as Tunde,
yes.
What's your idea of what the law should actually have there? As if the president declares a state of emergency under any guise, what should happen?
As Tunde Eson,
yes.
If you declare a state of emergency, and not a contrived one, don't contrive a state of emergency, because this is contrived. It could have been stopped.
It
could have been stopped. Everything that led to this, but where we are.
If you declare a state of emergency, what should happen?
Have the capacity, believe me, to appoint a sole administrator as Tunde Eson.
So
but let that flow.
That
should flow from the law.
From the law.
And in making the constitution, don't forget that people from all over the country, their representative would have had the opportunity to debate that.
Okay.
If that is the consensus, then it should be the law. So when you say I've appointed a sole administrator, I've appointed a sole administrator because it flows from the law, not from my whim, not from my caprice. But the man is looking at it is that having declared it, am I going to leave the same guy?
Yeah, am I going to leave the same guy?
The common sensical answer is no, it's not going to work. Yeah. But again, the legal answer is no, sir, you cannot. You cannot.
Okay.
So we're where we are.
Okay. This whole thing now, what does he say about about our true federalism? Does it portray that Nigeria is truly a federated state, or Mr. President acted like his power is superior to that of the governor who was elected? Because I listened to Professor Wole Soyinka criticizing that move made by Mr. President, saying that it does not reflect that Nigeria is a true federal state.
Has anybody said Nigeria is a federal state? No, but seriously, I'm just. I mean, we can't live. We can't live in this deception.
The Federal Republic of Nigeria.
We can't live in this deception now. You know, when Aguiyi Rossi came to power, the first thing he did was the unification decree, and that's what we've worked with since. So you have a president who's a Kabiyesi, is the all in all, and he can do whatever he wants to do. And that's the reality. And when you look at, the preamble to your constitution, it says, we the people. Which people? I wasn't part of the people. There was a military decree, wasn't it? Yeah, that's what you're dealing with. So what is the deception? It's not, see, there's a lot of work to be done, but we don't seem to be walking towards that direction. We all seem to be walking towards, it's my thought. No, I was going to say something.
So in doing this work, you might have to think out with our constitution. Is that what you're saying?
That's what
There's no constitution.
So
we're not
we
tinkering.
need a new
it's a military decree,
But the
isn't
president cited Section 305 of the 1999
Okay, so we have a
Constitution.
working constitution.
So it cited Section 305, which gives him the power to, using his discretion, if he thinks blah, 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 if he meets any of the condition there, to do a proclamation of a state of emergency. He has done that, right? He needed two-thirds support
Majority
from the National Assembly, He got that. Now, whether they were two-thirds or not is irrelevant. Whether it should have been a voice vote or actual casting of vote is not irrelevant. Those two things will not be pitched in any court of law. Trust me. The courts will be very reluctant to get involved. But the third leg is, now we have a military administrator. Yeah, it's a military guy now, isn't it? It's sole administrator. No, there's no provision for that. Now, if there's no provision to that, what do you do?
Okay.
What do we do?
It's your law. That's why you have your representative.
What does the law say?
No, I mean, there's no law. That's what I'm saying. That's the lacuna. That's the gap. There's no law.
Okay, very quickly, I know that, Ajibola asked you earlier, what should the sole administrator be doing? Yes, he has the money. Yes, salaries are being paid and a couple of other things. But is it key to resolving some of the issues at the moment, especially the political issues on ground? Is it able to help broker up the deal or broker peace between the warring factions in this particular situation within the 6-month scope that he has?
So the president will do that. It's not the job of IBAS to do that. IBAS can do that.
IBAS can do
No,
that.
it doesn't have the capacity.
Okay.
You know what has
IBAS is
happened?
just there to stabilize or
Yes,
just to fill the gap?
because if you go to Rivers now, I can tell you for free, if you talk to the ordinary person, it's like, okay, Fubara, some wikio, get out.
Let the two of them
get
go.
out. They have their peace. But it's not the way to run a country. The president is, I think what has happened to Fubara, it was being egged on by a lot of people. No. It's come to the realization that it's just, in a dictatorial state like Nigeria, it's just a guy. He can be picked up and thrown away. That reality has some. I think it will be ready to listen.
To listen going forward.
Going forward. I think they will sort themselves out. But again, sorry to say this, a Wike, for instance, should anybody act the way it does to us, a sitting governor? This 2-0, yes.
One more to go.
And wait, the president
has to power.
Should he
They must have negotiated before he got to
bring him to power? Should one person? Because at the end of the day, I'm supposed to have just one vote. Right?
But the people of Rivers, they voted and...
Okay.
Yes, APC won in Rivers
counted.
State. APC won the presidential election in
Hey,
Rivers State. They did.
So
Yes.
overall lessons, really, to be
Nothing.
You're still on this.
See, we're not ready as a people.
So when we're ready, what should we
collectively.
be doing?
Let's start with giving ourselves a constitution.
Okay.
Let's start with that. Let's start with
How do we even galvanize, this new constitution? You're not the first person that will call for a new constitution, but the Nigeria that I know, how do we even get that consensus of us having a new constitution when the one that we have...
Is there anything that cannot be on the table, including the dissolution of your country? Is there anything
There's
that cannot...
nothing, really.
You know why I'm saying this is this? Those who posture as your leaders...
As your
across-
leaders, as our leaders.
Yes, as our leaders.
You are in Nigeria.
But what I'm saying is this. I know a former governor in one of the southwestern states. He doesn't live in Nigeria. He has lived permanently in London for the past 8-9 years. But you will see him in Abuja talking about Nigeria. But it's not in Nigeria. It's not. Your leaders are not Nigerians. They're British, they're Americans, they're Canadians. This place is just a place where they come to make money.
Okay.
They don't care about this place.
How does that connect with Abimbola's question?
Now, I'll tell you something. You're talking about leaders because you're supposed to be led. You come to the conclusion that you need a new constitution. Not everybody will speak. You need people who will speak for you, who will represent your interests. Those who post you as your leaders today, do they care about you well enough to represent your interests?
But if we need to think about the constitution, they are not the only players that will be there. Civil society organizations will be there, media, and of course ethnic groups will also be represented.
There was a question she asked me. She said, Tunde, your issue with this administrator, are you willing to go to court as Tunde Eson to challenge it? Until people across boards, until they're ready to say, this country belongs to me as much as it belongs to the president. And we're ready to burn down this country and repick it. Two things. No. When I say burn again, I use this word loosely. When I say burn, I say burn in the sense of let's scatter and let's repick. The things that are not working, let's throw them away. The things that are working, let's bring them together. We need to get to the point where we say, this country will work. And it will take a lot of radical sacrifices. We are not, bros, we are not ready. You know what we're looking for? Kinshari me, but let me get my own. Let me get my own. Let me get my own. And once I have my own, let me run to London with my child. Let me go and live in a Sena climb. But if those people didn't build those Sena climbs,
how do you find some ways to run?
You need people. You need people to challenge the system, and not this president. So, like you said, if you want to write a new constitution, who will represent me? What's the name of my governor? DAO in Ekiti. Ayedatiwa some.
Ayedatiwa is in those states.
No. I say DAO. That's my day. Ayedatiwa, Oyebanji, my governor in Lagos.
MBA will also be represented there.
Do you have a green passport? It looks like we're going to take away your green passport.
No, I love the country, but what I'm saying is, let's have the difficult conversations.
Right.
Let's
say the truth.
Frank talk,
yeah.
really. Let's have very difficult conversation. Do I want to live with a man who speaks Fude, or the man who speaks Kalabari? We must be able to even have those conversations. Right. They are difficult conversations. It's a multi-ethnic society. Too many issues, too many interests, too much going on at the same time. I don't know if you notice young people even getting to the point where they're asking for military, and I'm like, no, you can't talk like that. You can't get to the point where you are so disenchanted with the system and you're asking for the military. No, we've lived through it. You've lived through it. You know that it's the worst form of government.
Right.
But hey, this is where we are. Can we have frank conversation? And the frank conversation can't be about, we
can't all laugh about it.
We can't laugh about it. We can't trample on your constitution. Okay. If the constitution is not working, find a way to amend it. If your senator is not working, recall him. Can you recall him? Plenty conversations again.
Okay. I think I have an idea where today is coming from this morning. Sometimes when you think that the system is just so not listening to what you have to say. But we won't keep talking. We won't stop talking.
I like that.
That was why I really wanted you to get out of that. It will remain the same.
No, it won't remain the same.
Okay,
but people change stuff. Yeah. Things don't change themselves. I mean, it's a state of inertia in physics. If you keep this thing here for 1 billion years, it will remain here unless it is pushed or moved.
I'm glad you just said that, because when you came in this morning, it was more than.
You get tired at times. You get tired. But like I said, it's a state of inertia. It's just there.
It's just there.
We have to push it to move. And what are the people?
We. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Tunde, for
Thank you.
Here
Thank you.
The program this morning. Some frank talk there. And of course, to change the system, we need to start speaking the truth. We need to start looking ourselves in the eyes and start saying the gospel truth. And again, cast away this aspersion of it will not work. It will work. It will work. It will work. We will continue to speak about it. We all love Nigeria. We all do not have the patience to go and sit in one cold country and come here once in a while and be talking about in Nigeria. No, let's all stay here together and let us all make the system work. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we return, Adebimpe and Joy will be here with their Lagos conversation.
The views expressed on